So, Agapi, I am so excited to have you today. I invited you on the show for a reason. And the reason is I think you're the perfect person to talk about what I call spiritual intelligence.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell you what I mean by this. When we talk about in organizations, we talk a lot about IQ. We've got to develop our IQ. We also talk about emotional intelligence. We've got to develop that. We very rarely, and we do a little, but very rarely talk about developing our spiritual intelligence.
SQ.
Yes, right? And I think these conversations really may be scary for people because what we're really talking about is what organizations are thriving. I mean, are dying for, and that is for some shared meaning and shared connection.
Exactly. And humanity.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you just to start us off because we've got so much to talk about in a really short amount of time. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because you write about these things in various ways. And what you have learned about this spiritual intelligence over the years.
The thing that comes to mind at first is that it's extraordinary how at moments of crisis, our humanity comes present. So, for example, I live in New York, and I was present at September 11th. And as incredible, the tragedy and the devastation that people experience is beyond words, as you know, and it's still, the ripple effect is still there. But also what emerged from that is this incredible humanity, this incredible kindness, this incredible compassion, where people couldn't do enough, where people's lives transformed. I mean, there are so many stories, Janet, of people who said, I'm leaving Wall Street, I'm leaving the financial world, I'm going to become a baker. I mean, I'm going to start doing what I love. I'm going to start being of service. And you see that right now there is so many disasters on planet Earth with the climate crisis, and you saw that in Maui just recently. So suddenly there are millions of dollars being raised by people who say, can I help? But beyond that, volunteer. So there is so much good that's happening, and a lot in our humanity. And then there is the I call it the trucks. They're like, if you imagine there is the trucks of the train, and there is there is a track that goes into the outer world and has accomplished success, recognition, got to make it, survival, everything. And then there is the track that says, I'm part of the whole. I belong. I'm not alone. My inner life, developing the inner life, finding your inner compass. And that's the other train. And there is a platform in between. And what I always like to say is that the platform is the heart. Because if you really want to know the truth of who we are, the truth of who we can become, and to live the best of our lives, you got to come to your heart. And as I say that, I ask our listeners to come to their heart. I'm coming more present in my heart as I'm sharing this, because in our daily life, we're always into, the things we've got to get done, our to-do list. And the only way to transform the to-do list into becoming a joyful list, a list of creativity, of joy, where you can be productive, you can be alive in yourself, is to bring your presence. And that's why I love the title of your podcast. Mm-hmm. It's all about presence. And I have many conversations with people who say, this is me before my heart opened, and this is me after I had an experience and my heart opened up. And that's my story, basically. As you know, I wrote this book called Unbinding the Heart. Yeah. And although I was a very loved child, I was brought up in Athens, Greece, by an incredible mother, Ellie. that raised me and my sister Ariana with pure love, unconditional love. And Agapi, my first name, means unconditional love, as you know.
Yeah.
Ariana was a AAA student, driven, brilliant in math and algebra and economics. And I was this artistic child that hated math and hated school and just wanted to love people and have a good time and be joyful. And I wanted everybody to be happy. I still do, because I'm an empath. And I started to really find my compass and my trajectory as I went into acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I started to express my talent and my different expressions of, theater is such an incredible platform of creativity. And my mother taught me and Ariana yoga when we were 12 years old in Athens, Greece. So that's incredible. I mean,
That is incredible, right?
And we were raised with this foundation of spirituality, not religion. She was not about the Greek church. I mean, if people wanted to go to church, she, of course, whatever, she never was against anything. She was for life. Mm-hmm. And she felt everybody has their path, their rituals, and the way they connect with life. If we could tattoo a phrase in our forehead, she would have said, trust your life force. Trust your life force. Trust that there is something bigger than you. And so often with all her adversities that she faced, financial adversities, my father, whom I adored, was an incredible economist and brilliant man, but a concentration camp survivor. So he had a lot of trauma because as a young man, he was captured by the Germans, the Nazis, because he was writing against the Germans that occupied Greece. And so he took out the trauma through gambling, drinking, and women. So he kind of broke my mother's heart. What my mother adored him, you know. It's an amazing story, and I write about it in my book, Unbinding the Heart, because at the end, as you know, I talk about forgiveness and how my father asked my mother for forgiveness and really released himself from the judgments and the guilt that he had caused her so much pain. But my path really started when I went to Los Angeles to do a movie, because I was also very recognized as a very talented actress, but my career wasn't happening, basically. And so the movie didn't work out. I decided to stay in LA, and I embarked on a spiritual path, which was like, okay, I'm not just a Greek girl who is an actress and wants to get married and find her prince one day. I am something else that my mother always taught me, that we are bigger than who we think we are. We are connected. There is a life force. There is she used to call it, when you trust your life force, things open up for you. And at that moment in my life, I embarked in my seeking journey, and I read every spiritual book. I did hours of yoga, and I had a specific spiritual experience and awakening, which is undeniable. You know, when it's like something hits you in your forehead, and you go, "Wow, I get it. I'm connected. I actually called it at that time, I'm a child of the whole of God." And God, Janet, is such a tiny little word to describe the infinite, to describe the mysterious, the mystical, that so many poets and teachers and mystics have tried to describe, but it's really in the silence that we experience it. It's beyond the words, it's beyond the mind, it's beyond the emotions. And in my meditations that I do, I always come in the presence of the breath, and I ask myself and I ask the people I'm leading in the meditation, who are you beyond the mind, beyond the story, beyond the emotions? Who is the one that's breathing you? Because that's where it starts. You know, so many times people go about it in a destructive way. I mean, I think People go about it get involved in drugs or get involved in alcohol, get involved in ways because they are looking for a way out. And the way out is the way in. And when you go in, so many people say to me, but I go in and I find nothing. There's an emptiness. There is a void. There is a darkness. And that's when you need your guides, your spirit, your faith, your whoever it is that you are, either you are being coached or you find a teacher or you find that support where you start to excavate, where you start to build the discipline. You've got to do the inner work. As much energy as we put in our outer world, we have to start putting in our inner world. And let me quote one of my favorite teachers, Joseph Campbell, in The Power of Myth. You must have a place at your home, a little corner, a little quiet place where you go in and you don't remember who you are. You don't remember how much money is in the bank. You don't remember your dreams, your aspirations. You don't remember what's in the news today. You don't remember your name. You don't remember anything. In that place is the creative incubation. That is your bliss. That is your soul. That's the unknown. That's the mystical. You got to go there and find the courage to go there and let it reveal itself to you. It is a sacred path. It is filled with reverence for your life force. And if you let your ego, your personality, your addictions to this world stop you, you just leave the consequences of that.
Yeah. One of the things I'm thinking as you talk is, some of the guests I've had on the show before, there was a man named Joseph Jaworski. I don't know if you know him, if you've heard of him. He's 88 years old now, and he had written a book years ago, like in 1994, called Synchronicity, The Inner Path to Leadership. And it was about a lot of these things that you talk about, that we talk about, that you're talking about. It's about finding the source and connecting to the source, and things start to unfold in your life, right? And a lot of it, Campbell and the journey and all of the things that you're talking about. But one of the things that what we find, and another one of my guests talked about this, is that we have such a reactive tendency. We react to our environment, and we react to our environment because we have two needs: the need for safety and the need to be loved.
Yes. And to do that matter.
Right. And love is worthiness, right? So being worthy, being loved, all those things. And so what we do is we please and we protect and we control in order to do those things. And that is all coming from that ego place that you're talking about. And the secret to the creative process, what Bob Anderson, one of the guests, talked about, was it's really releasing that and moving towards the creative is releasing that me and those needs and moving forward. And a lot of what you're talking about is I guess we have obstacles, we have blocks that block us from that life force you talk about. How would you suggest that people get more grounded and attuned? Like you said, you're attuned to that.
Yes.
Right? What are some ways you think people can attune to that more readily?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, start having a journal. Mm-hmm. It's God bless her, the Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, has revolutionized, whatever you say that word, at the morning pages. Yeah. Absolutely. So connected and so important that she says, don't get out of bed before you actually write down and dump the unconscious. I mean, you've had that experience, Janet, where you go to sleep and you have all these dreams and you get up and you go, oh my God, I had this dream that I was on a boat and the boat was going the wrong direction, and then somebody was wearing my dress, and then I lost my keys. And you wake up and you now got to get on with the day, but there is a lot that happened in your subconscious. So let's start by clearing house a little bit, dumping, writing, burning the pages. And it's so simple. You don't need a coach. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a therapist. You got your diary. You got your journal. You got your beautiful pens, and you write in the morning and you write at night. Right. So you start to become like an artist, a mastering of yourself. You got to start looking at yourself as a multidimensional being, which we are. Whatever wakes you up, whatever makes you feel alive. I mean, some people say, I feel my spirit when I dance, when I cook. So here's the question that I'm posing to every single person who is listening now. Let me tell you, my favorite scene in a movie is a movie called The Chariots of Fire. Do you know that movie?
Yes, definitely.
And for those of you who haven't watched it, please watch that movie. And so I'm going to read you this beginning chapter from my book, Speaking with Spirit. And it's called Finding the Extraordinary in the Ordinary. Okay. And I wrote this book during the pandemic. My favorite film quote is from Chariots of Fire. The protagonist, Eric Liddell, is training to run into 1924 Olympic Games while preparing for a trip to China to work as a missionary. His sister admonishes him for not following God's will and says to him, Eric, you have to throw away this silly little thing, this silly running thing, and do this really important work, God's work. Eric looks at her and says, but when I run, I feel his pleasure. So I want to ask our listeners, when do you feel his pleasure? And I'm going to ask you, Janet, and then I'll tell you mine. When do you feel the Spirit? When do you feel God's pleasure in you?
I feel it all the time. And I think most of the time when I really feel it is when I'm connecting deeply with people.
Beautiful, beautiful,
yeah.
Beautiful. Whether it is people you know, like your husband or your co-workers.
Or with, we're having a conversation and we go to a deeper place. I feel the presence.
That is so beautiful. And I feel the same way. I feel I can go to an event and suddenly meet with somebody randomly, just like that. And or we start to talk and there's a connection. And I said, Spirit was here.
Yes.
I can, I feel it when I perform. I feel it when I'm speaking. I feel it when I'm in the supermarket and suddenly I connect with the cashier and I say, and I have a moment where it's real. It's not just, I'm the 100th customer that she said, but I have a moment with her right there and then.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's that not going through the motions, but feeling that deeper connection.
And that is the greatest gift when you walk in life with that. It's like the golden key is that connection, that you can have with the Uber driver, with the taxi driver, with somebody, or you are there for someone who needs your help, or you call someone and you say, you're on my mind. And I just wanted to not text you, to reach out. How are you? And I was thinking of you. And the person says, oh my God, this is amazing. You're calling me now because I was going through this difficult thing with my child or with my boss, or it's just like being in tune in the
radar. Yeah.
And will.i.am, the wonderful singer and artist, will.i.am, he always says, ask yourself, what is my currency in my life? And my currency was he said his currency was his talent, while people around him, the kids around him, had the money and the the stuff, the watches or the clothes. He didn't have that. He was raised poor, but he started to rap and he started to sing, and everybody was around him because he said, my currency was my creativity.
Mm.
So I want to ask you, what is your currency? To ask people, what is your currency? It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be recognition. And for me, my currency is my heart.
Mhm.
I mean, people say, oh my God, Agapi came in and I felt this energy, or I felt her, the love, because I don't withhold my loving because I don't know somebody. I can go up to someone, I never met them, and feel the connection, and my heart is boom, like that. So I make the commitment to keep my heart open at all times. And that's back to what we said about the connection of the two platforms. Here's the thing. We're going to meet people on a path whose hearts are closed, who are negative, who are angry, who are have againstness, who are not like us,
Right.
And what our challenge is to say, well, this person is in my life, because if somebody is not in your life and you just meet them, and fine, but if they're in your life, you decide and you say, how can I hold my loving so that this person's shut offness doesn't affect me? Am I right?
Oh, again, I there's so much to unpack in everything you're saying, because everything you're saying is such a wise nugget of wisdom, and I hope people are letting it sink in, and maybe even listen to it again, because there's so much in what you're saying. What's so strange, and maybe it's not so strange, but yesterday I was talking to this young man who one of his bosses had asked me to talk to him in terms of helping him a little bit with his leadership, and we were talking, and he's always thinking, and I said to him, Agapi, I said, okay, close off the mind and think here, go to your heart,
Exactly.
tell me what that says. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is that we rely so much on the thinking capacity, and we're not realizing that the heart and the soul have so much to offer us in terms of how we interact.
That is accessible to us at 24/7.
Yes.
24/7. And that to me is the thing that I want to, go out in the streets and say, we've got it. We've all got it. We don't have to go anywhere. Hug someone, love someone. I have a technique or a tool that I use, which I want to pass on to our listeners. When I talked about that journal that you start, to write in your journal, anything that comes up, start writing a phrase that says, Spirit, speak to me, and ask yourself at the specific moment that you're going through something. You can say, I need to reach out to this person, but I don't know them, or I'm afraid, or I feel rejected, or whatever. Let's say that, and you say, Spirit, speak to me about this issue. And you take a breath, and you come in your presence, and you exhale, and you ask your spirit to show you what you need to do about this particular issue. And spirit will just tell you. Spirit will just say, ask so-and-so if they know them. Call them tomorrow. Let it be. Send the light. I always say, send the light. That's one of my biggest things. What that means, send the good energy to that person. Yeah. And you go to an event and the person is there. Or you walk down the street. I mean, I'm just saying this.
Oh, I know. That's synchronicity, right? It's happening because it's inside you and you're drawing it. And I don't think people trust that enough, or trust that everything that they need is inside them. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes. I mean, and that it's inside, but also you have to
channel it.
go inside and do the outside, and maybe you call and maybe you get rejected, and then you have to go back and forgive the rejection and say, okay, this person said no, but I'm going to go to this person now. So it takes a lot of chutzpah. It takes a lot of raising up your consciousness, your inner child. Your personality does not then control you, but you, because listen, the personality is always going to have comparisons, insecurities, fear, addiction. That's who we are in the human level. To go to the other consciousness, it's a dance. It's a constant asking and receiving. But if we learn to just shut up, it's this great story of this monk who is in the monastery, and he's going around, and he says to God, what can I do to serve you? I love you so much. What can I do to serve you? Can I plant more trees? Can I feed the poor? Can I build more monasteries? Can I invite more poor people to come and stay in the monastery? And he hears his inner voice says, shut up and let me love you.
Yeah, and see, there's the stillness, right? What to do, but what to be, right? It's kind of the beginning of what we were talking about is, we spend so much time doing and not thinking about who we're being.
Yes, exactly. And we spend so much time worrying and analyzing. And, they say that this is novel, that the first line of the novel, I don't remember the name, says the biggest distance. Mr. Phillips had to travel a big distance between his head and his heart because he lived too far away from his heart. And coming back to your heart, which is my story that I talk about in every book I've written, Unbinding the Heart, I had specific moments of where I was very blessed with my mother. I was very blessed also with a teacher called John Roger, who passed away 5 years ago. So I followed a certain teacher, a certain consciousness that really helped me open up my heart. So, I remember my teacher would say to me, hug me. And he would say to me, how are you? And I said, well, now that you're hugging me, I'm great. Because I always say to people, hug people. Let people feel your heart. Love is real. And back to what you said, we all need to experience that love. It's not words. It's not, of course, there are ways to say to people, I love you, and to do things for them. But if you hug them and you hold them in your heart, the radiation of your heart, the electromagnetic field of your heart, the energy of your heart, if you photograph it, there are photographs of the aura of the heart, is huge. But when the heart is closed, do you ever feel that you get bad news or something and suddenly your energy collapses?
You squeeze up. It's completely, yeah.
Up your heart. And so it's a commitment. You cannot open up your heart if you have judgments on yourself, if you think you're not good enough, if your value is if you value yourself because of your accomplishments.
Right.
Listen, it's wonderful to accomplish, and it's wonderful to be recognized, and it's wonderful to have people who acknowledge you, and all that is wonderful. But what is more wonderful than anything is to be of service and to make a difference in people's lives, and in every single way. And to come back to the question that I know you have a lot in your questions that we talked about before, is how does the ego fit in all this? And in this book, Wake Up to the Joy of You, on my chapter 17, page 91, I wrote a lot about how does the ego fit into your life. The ego is your ally, and the chapter is called Make Your Ego Your Ally. So how you make your ego your ally is you are the master of the ego. You need your ego to get you out of bed. You need your ego to keep going, to accomplish, to create.
Right. It's not bad. I think people associate ego with bad. We all need an ego. It's just when it gets in the way is the problem.
Yeah, the ego will say,
When
I
you
don't.
when you identify with it, that's you.
Uh,
Yes.
this is my quote from my teacher. If we utilize the ego correctly, we can have it function for us. Being aware that as soon as we give our power over to it, it can destroy us. It will destroy us by making us believe we are the ego. It will turn us away from our greatest awareness of who we truly are, the soul.
Yeah.
I have a great phrase here that says, how I handle my ego when it's getting out of balance, I don't know. I don't judge it. I learned the difference between my ego and my higher wisdom. I have realized my power lies in not letting my ego get the best of me. In this place of true power, not assumed power, my confidence shows up. The truth inside me speaks, and I let of my ego's right and wrong. I no longer care about winning. So I choose to trust my heart and let it shine through its light and strength and witness the extraordinary ability it has to transform every situation and relationship. People's egos will always exist, retaliating, fighting, competing, arguing, holding on to disappointments, being self-righteous towards one another. But both your ego and your wisdom are always accessible. My advice to you is that when people are adversarial, let them be that way and watch them stumble over their own egos. I mean, I know my ego and I've seen it, I've stumbled with many, many times, and it feels icky to me. But I'm sure you feel the same way. Don't you feel the ego?
Yeah, and I think, Agapi, that I think is, those words are a perfect way to, because I know we could talk here all day, and I know we're pretty much out of time, but I think those words we talk about a lot on this podcast is operating with less ego and more soul. So
Yes.
and what you just described is exactly the essence of that. It's realizing who you are and operating from another piece of yourself. And I just think there's so much wisdom in your book and what you've shared with us today. I urge people to look in the show notes. We'll have links to all your books that people want to know more, especially this piece about making your ego your ally, which I think people will be really interested in, because we talk a lot about that on this show. But I just feel like I've been in the presence of a wise woman, a Greek goddess wise woman from, so I really, really, and I'm someone who I believe in old souls, and I think I'm in the presence of one today. So I very much appreciate you being here.
I so appreciate you saying that. And I feel that kinship with you from the moment you reached out and when I heard your voice and your podcast. You have a peace and it's just a beautiful composed energy about you that is connected, and to me that is the greatest gift, to meet other souls that are connected, and we're all in the process of connecting deeper and deeper, and the journey doesn't end. But I want to give everybody my email. Please send me an email and I'll send you some of my guided meditations. I have 33 guided meditations in Wake Up to the Joy of You and Audible. And it's actually Agapi, AGAPI, at unbindingtheheart.com. So you can send me an email. I'll send you meditations. If you have any questions, I always answer all my emails. And I wanted to just leave you with this affirmation, which is basically every day for me, I get up and I have this phrase called God is my partner. And I have an experience, which I describe in the book, of when I learned that, of when I was feeling very alone and very shaken about a business deal I was putting together. And when I found my inner muscle to say, God is my partner, I shook. I mean, I trembled. It was like, oh my God. And what I mean by God is the 36 trillion cells that are making you right now. That's beyond the Janet and the Agapi and the Lindsay and the James and the people, beyond your you. There is this life, there is this force, there is this incredible, mystical, reverent energy. So getting to know that, getting to really listen to that, to know that you're not alone. It takes time, it takes discipline, it takes willingness, but it takes devotion. So it is worth everything in your life to really allow it to speak to you. It is the most magnificent love affair you will ever have. And I pass it on to you out of my experience, because in all my books, I write about my challenges, my adversities, what I overcame to come to this place, to know my soul and to know Agapi in the humanness and to know Agapi in her higher consciousness. And so it's a constant integration of that. I mean, it never ends. It's not like
Right.
I have to work it every day. Every day, I have to forgive myself, love myself, have compassion for myself, speak my truth, honor my feelings, not let my feelings become more of not let my feelings and my thoughts take over me and my worries and my fears, but to let the consciousness, so till it becomes grounded. So God bless you. We're on the journey together. And, Cavafy's poem, Ithaca, Ithaca. Remember Ithaca by Cavafy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What this life is all about. It's the journey. It's the wisdom. It's where you arrive. But it's not easy being a human being. Let's put it this way. But we have a lot of wonderful light that's shining on the planet right now. So let's take that light and run with it.
And thank you for being a guide on the way. My wise woman today.
Thank you so much, Janet. God bless.